Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. Today's video is being presented to you from a mildly comfortable hospital bed that I've been staying in the past few days. Nothing to worry about. I am going home tomorrow, so I'm definitely on the mend. I'll tell you a bit more about that at the end of the video. What you guys are going to be doing today, not me because I didn't bring a sewing machine with me, but you'll be making a book pouch. Now, obviously I can't make anything right now, but I would love to see how your products end up on our Facebook group called Christine's Home Affairs. So we have lots of people sharing the products that they make from our videos, and so I'd love to see those there. This is one of the books that will very easily fit into the book pouch. In fact, you can get a bigger hardback book in the book pouch as well, but I will show you how to take measurements for the books that you might have. You can use it for iPads, tablets, you can use it for bigger notebooks and things like that. So I will show you how to take measurements for something that you might like to make the book pouch for. The reason that we're revisiting this video now, and I've only just recently put it up, is because it's actually going to make my top 10 bestsellers in my next report, which is due out in the next week or two. And it's been a really good seller in the shop. It's very quick to make. You can make it with quilting cotton. And if you do make it with quilting cotton, you'll just need some kind of light to medium weight stabilizer. All the materials list is coming up shortly, but I've made this with a nice fluffy upholstery fabric, so it's really cute. All the ones I've made so far have been with this kind of fabric in varying colours, and it's been incredibly popular. So without any more waffling on, we're going to get straight into the video. This is the book I'd like to make a bag for. It's the latest crime thriller that I'm reading. Basically what you want to do is measure the size of your book, then wrap the fabric up around the side for the depth, but we also need to add seam allowance. We also need to do the same for the top and the bottom. I'm making an allowance on each side of the book of 1.5 inches or 4 centimetres. So I'll do that on both sides and on the bottom and top as well. So this book measures 6 by 9 inches. That means I'm going to add 3 inches, which will make it 9 by 12 inches. And that's what I'll be cutting my fabric out at. We don't need much for this project today. I have 2 pieces of fabric for the outside of the bag, 2 pieces of lining. I don't need to stabilise this fabric because it's nice and thick and soft. If you want to stabilise your fabric, you can go and use something really soft and lightweight like this Parlan or a Pallan. This is a fusible stabiliser. Whatever stabiliser you have should work for you. I have some piping cord, a button. You could also use a rounded elastic that's going to be for a little loop at the front of the bag. It's a very simple bag, and a couple of pieces for lining. This is a really nice bubbly kind of upholstery fabric that we're using today. Your materials list will be up on the screen now, and then we can get started. So if you're using a cotton or a piece of fabric that needs stabilising, go and iron that to the wrong side of your outer fabric now. And once you've done that, we can get on to the next step. I've cut my cord to a length of 8 inches, which is about 20 centimetres. I've also gone and put a label on the front of my bag as well. Using the back of the fabric, attach your cord to the centre of your bag at the top. If you have a printed fabric with an obvious direction, put your cord at the top. Find the centre, which is right here, and I'll stitch that in place. This is going to be such a quick project, so I'm going to go and sew that in place now. I'll be right back. So that's done. I've actually stitched it really close to the top edge and then about 1/4 inch in again, so it's got 2 rows of stitching and it's very secure. Let's grab one of our lining pieces, and with the printed side facing the outside of the bag, we'll place those top edges together, and we'll grab the front And we'll do the same with the other piece. So if this is the right side, that's my wrong side. I'll place the right sides together. I'm going to sew my button on at the end because then I'll get a better fit for the little loop that I have. We can take these two pieces to the machine and sew along here with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. I'm using a regular universal needle, size 90 or 14. I always like to sew with the stronger fabric at the top, or the one that's got the stabiliser on it. There's less shifting in the fabric that way. Backstitch at the beginning and the end. I'll reinforce that cord again. And I'll do the same for the next one. All right, that's sewn up at the top. Let's open that out. And we can join these two pieces together. You can go and press this if you need to. This is just a really lightweight lining, so I'm not going to bother. I'm a bit lazy today. Place your fabric together and line it up along that seam at the top, and just check that your fabric pieces are lining up. And we'll clip those top edges together first, and then we can do the rest of it. That way, if anything needs manipulating, you can do that on the sides or the bottom, but at least your top will be perfectly lined up. Line up the rest of your edges. And also on your lining. For the lining, I'm going to leave an opening on one of the sides. So I'll clip it together here and here, leave this opening, and I'll secure the rest of it. Let's go back to the machine. We'll sew all the way around. I will reinforce these side seams along the top here. Keep on going, and I'm going to leave an opening just in here, just about that big, and I'll backstitch at the beginning and the end of this opening as well. I'm still using my 1 centimetre or 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'm on the lining. I'm going to start where the opening is going to be made, and I'll backstitch here. I'll triple stitch over the top section. This is where I'm leaving my opening. Okay, we are nearly finished. I promised you a quick project, and this is definitely it. On the lining, we're going to separate the two pieces, and we've got a seam going along here, which is the bottom seam, and this one is the side seam. I want to line up this bottom seam with the side seam. You can feel the seam locking together underneath, but what you can do is grab a pin, go into the stitching line, come out the other side, bring the pin out through the stitching line on the other side, and then up through the stitching line again. So it's in and out at the stitching line on this side, close enough on this side that we can call it even. We've got our fabric coming out into a point. I've got this seam facing my left, this one here going to my right. Doesn't matter what's happening at the top. And I'm going to measure across until the diagonal measures 1.5 inches or 4 centimetres going across. That 1.5 inches or 4 centimetres will be my stitching line. On the other side, we'll do the same. Pinch those two pieces out, and because this seam here is going to my right, I'm going to fold that to the right, which means the one underneath will go to the left. It's not the end of the world if it's not perfect. Pop your needle through, it's lined up well enough, and measure that 1.5 inches again. So for both of those, we're going to sew straight across there. For the outer fabric, we're going to do that again. Obviously, this is a little bit thicker. If you prefer, you can press your seams open. It's not really something I like to do. I prefer to have my seams going in opposing directions. So once again, I'll go in with the pin on one side, come out on the stitching line at the other side, and come up on the stitching line. Do the same over here. Again, I'm going to line up the seam going to the right and have the one on the back going in the opposite direction. You can usually feel this underneath whether or not it's lining up, but the best way to know is if you stick a pin in it and it comes out in the right spot on the other side. So once again, we'll line this up so that these diagonals measure 1.5 inches or 4 centimetres. And now we can go and sew across those marked lines. On the outer fabric, I'll triple stitch that because of the bulk that's there. On the lining, it's okay just to stitch it normally. Before we turn this the right way out, I'm going to join these ears at the bottom so that the lining doesn't come out when you take your book in and out. So just bring this side seam along here, up to this side seam, and join up the little ears here, and hold that in place. And then we've got this side seam that we want to line up with this one. So that means we've got this triangle here needs to face the outer triangle. So all we need to do now is just go and stitch along the stitches that we've already sewn. Okay, that's nice and secure at the bottom. We can chop off these ears now. Find the opening in your lining and come up to the outer fabric, and we can pull that all through. And before we check out the bag, we'll go to the side seam, pinch out those edges and fold the seam under. And we'll stitch that closed. So when I've stitched this closed, I've just done a very narrow top stitch along that opening. It's probably less than 1/8 of an inch. It's only a couple of millimeters. Stick the lining to the inside and poke out your corners. Because this fabric is so bubbly, I have a lot of bulk at the bottom, and to help that sit, I'm going to pop a couple of clips in the bottom, and I'm only doing this for about 10 minutes or so, just to kind of press it in place. And what I'm going to do now is line up the seam at the top so that you've got the seam sitting nice and evenly around the top. We'll clip it all together and get that ready to top stitch. Okay, so that's ready. It's easier for me to go and top stitch when I can see this fabric faced up. So I'm going to turn this inside out. I'll start on the side seam and stitch all the way around. Probably about 1/4 of an inch in from the top. I don't want to go too close to the top. I think it'll look nicer if my top stitch is further away from the top edge. I've increased my stitch length to 4 for the top stitching. And aside from the button, we're finished. I'll remove those clips, so that actually helps that sit a little bit better. Pop our book inside, and it's a perfect fit. I found my box of toggles, and I'd like to place it just about there. Make a little mark. I'm using 4 strands of thread around my needle. That way it will be much quicker to sew, and I'll have extra strength as well. And all I need to do is stitch that in place. And there we have it, our cute little book bag. I love this fabric. And that will sit nicely inside the bag. So of course at the end of the video I like to hold up the book pouch or whatever it is that we've made. This time round you're going to have to show me what you've made. I've been in hospital for the past few days. I ended up with renal failure as a result of the immunotherapy that I'm on. I won't go into too much detail about it. I did do a video update on my cancer channel, so if you want to know more about what's been happening lately, I'll pop a link to the Christine's Health Affairs channel, and you can go and have a look at the latest video there. So this channel I like to keep mostly free of, you know, my cancer journey, and keep it a nice, fun, happy place. So I hope you found this a fun video to make. I hope you didn't mind revisiting the video. I really thought it was a good one for those that sew to sell. I thought it was a really good one for everybody to make because it's been a brilliant seller in the shop for me. In fact, yesterday Chris sold 4 of them alone in the shop because I wasn't there to help him. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you very soon in my sewing studio. I hope this week I'll be well enough to get up and start making some more videos. Bye for now.